Hey guys, Luna here, and welcome to another episode of That Crypto Hustle. I'm super excited, and we're going to be trying to do this on a weekly basis to have Kurt here from White Rabbit ICOs. Hey Kurt, thanks for joining us.
Hey, yeah, I'm happy to talk to you again.
Yay, I'm excited.
Yeah.
So this week it's all about EOS, and I know that you have a lot to say and a lot of positive things to say about it. So
hmm
everyone's kind of freaking out because they have to register by, I guess, not tomorrow, but by Friday, June 1st. So just kind of wanted to
hmm
start talking about that and also asking you what sort of the pros and cons of EOS and whether or not you think it might be a major competitor to Ethereum in the long run. So the first thing is like registration. What's the deal? Like, why does everyone need to register by June 1st? Like, what's going on? I know everybody's like selling off their Ethereum, so what's going on?
Yes, for sure. So everybody should be registered within well, probably 2 days is safest, hopefully today. The reason why everybody has to register is because they launched on Ethereum platform, but they're really building their own platform. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is, and so they want you to move the tokens that you bought off of Ethereum onto their blockchain, and so the registration process I think is confusing for a lot of people. So it might be good just to like throw out some information. I wrote some posts on how to like move off of Ethereum into EOS, and I stand by my solution. I think the easiest way to do it is through a wallet like Exodus that has
Hmm.
like a one-click way to register. But you know, some people have some concerns about that too. But I still think it's a good way to do it if you just want to do it really quickly. Just throw them into an Exodus wallet. But if you do that, I think that it's also very good that you back up the wallet and you be aware that you know the airdrops may not come to that wallet. You may not see them. They will still be attached with that wallet address, but yeah, register your tokens because you don't want to end up with a bunch of worthless Ethereum tokens.
So when you mean backup, like you mean in a hardware wallet, like Nano
So
Ledger, or
yeah, and I have a lot of bias here, so I just want to be really upfront about it, is that I'm not really big on hardware wallets, but this EOS thing has made me a little bit more open to it, but I'm more into the software wallets. I think that like what if I step on the wallet and I know you can there's a lot of ways around it, and actually I think hardware wallets are a pretty good solution. I just personally don't like them
hmm.
because I'm not good with hardware, and I always break my shit, so I don't want to. I don't want to. I'm safer with software. I'm more of a software guy. But as far as backing up your wallet, like when you download the wallet onto your computer, it's like if your computer blew up or you threw it out the window, like you won't have your money anymore because, well, I mean, if your computer broke and when you threw it out the window and you can't boot it up anymore, and so with the way to back up a wallet is really if you need to get a new computer, you gain access to your assets. It's sort of like an account login,
Uh-huh.
uh, and so the backup process is actually pretty simple. Like in Exodus, for example, you just hop into the settings, and then it will have a question about like how to back it up. It'll have instructions. So you just hop in there, and it's really just about setting up a password so that you can log in somewhere else and then store your password in a very safe place where nobody else can access it. And that just means that if something happens to your computer or whatever, you can hop into a different computer and still access all of your assets.
Got it. So what other software wallet do you recommend then beyond Exodus?
Beyond Exodus, I've seen some people recommend Jax. I haven't used it personally.
Hmm.
I mean, I think with EOS moving to their own blockchain, a lot of people are saying my Ether wallet, but I really like it. It's just a little confusing for me myself, knowing what they support and what they don't. And also, I think that my Ether wallet, because it is web-based, that it's a little bit more open to phishing attacks. And so
Huh.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who might get burned I really do like my Ether wallet. I like my crypto as well. Like I know the founders from my crypto and they're really cool people actually.
Uh-huh.
So those are the wallets that I'd suggest. I think even a ledger is a good solution too, like hardware, software. The great thing I like about Exodus is that it's like a downloadable program onto your computer. So it feels like kind of the best of both worlds. Like you're probably less likely to get phished from, like a program on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
There's always vulnerabilities and always security issues with it, and somebody could always come in and steal your money. So you have to just look at all of the security issues of each one. Like, what is a ledger? Like, I've seen these 15-year-old kids hack these ledgers. You know, I've seen.
Well, and
like,
hacking is such a big deal right now within the cryptocurrency space, and it's something that a lot of people are worried about. So. Yeah, I've seen some tutorial about Exodus. Sorry, I can't pronounce it. My French accent comes out. But yeah, so actually didn't know that there were like other software wallets that you could use. I mean, what I've seen is also, essentially downloading it on a hardware wallet for EOS.
yeah, and I would suggest also EOS has some really nice like sort of tutorials on their site, and they have like supported wallets and not supported, and so some people got a little bit worried where they said Exodus isn't really supported. And that might be true when it comes to airdrops, which I think we should discuss for just a second, only because I think that a lot of people don't really get what airdrops are, and airdrops happen a little bit differently on EOS. And what it really comes down to is like free money. And I think a lot of people aren't getting that. And I was actually really surprised.
A lot of people are super skeptical though about airdrops. But I mean, yeah. So, I mean, what's the difference between EOS like airdrop and other airdrops that happen with other ICOs, I guess?
So, okay. So it's pretty much the same concept where they give out free tokens. There's a little bit of a difference here, and I think that it actually is going to reflect in EOS price long term. And like, you know, this is just informational. Like, I don't like to give investment advice to anybody, but so as far as airdrops, a lot of these companies are automatically sending them to EOS holders. So it's a little different, where I know that some Ethereum tokens wanted to do that and some didn't, but EOS is different because they've sort of set up this model where you're incentivized to buy more EOS because the tokens that are launched on the EOS platform will give them to you on a ratio based on how much EOS you hold. So for example, Everypedia is one of the biggest airdrops that's going to happen on EOS, and they're going to do like maybe it's not a 1-to-1 ratio either. Like they might give 5 or even 100 tokens for every 1 EOS token that you had at a limit. And so a lot of the airdrops that are happening are going to be the same way. They're going to be like, okay, who has EOS? And we're going to airdrop to these people that hold EOS at a ratio based on how much you hold. And so I think that this is a little bit different from Ethereum in a way, even though some airdrops did happen that way. There are ratios, some Bitcoin, some of the, you know, a lot of other ones did that too. But I feel like what EOS did is actually pretty smart in a way for their platform, because it makes you want to buy more EOS the way that they've set it up. And so this is a little bit different from Ethereum, in my opinion.
But then what happens if you don't have time to register by June 1st? You essentially lose your...
Pretty much fucked. Like, I just think that people should just be on the safe side and register your shit. Just do it now.
Yeah, got it. And so what happens if you purchase EOS after? After June 1st?
So this is actually a pretty good question, because I think a lot of people are going to try to buy. And I've heard, I don't know the exact details, but I've heard, and fuck, I don't even want to say this actually, but like, I've heard that people will somehow have a way to still register them after the fact. But this is really controversial to say. I think that we should just move forward with the assumption that all the tokens are going to be worthless.
It's working. Technical difficulties, guys. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened.
No
So
worries.
we were talking about airdrops
Yeah.
and the controversy of buying EOS after June 1st.
So I think that we kind of exhausted, like, just be on the safe side, register, and you're probably good. And then you can use some tools online to confirm that your stuff is registered, or you can ping us and even ask us if you want. Like, we'll help you do it. Like, I would just go in that crypto hustle and just leave comments or something and just ask people. And if you see anything there, I'd be happy to hop in and help. But I think that there's like an overall point about airdrops that people may be missing here. Like, because one of the big things that I love about cryptocurrencies in general is this idea that people can access new ways to be like more financially empowered. And so I think that airdrops is a part of education of cryptocurrencies that could be really important. And like, just keep in mind that this is totally risky and it could be nothing, but at the same time, like, what airdrops really are, and airdrops and forks, it's sort of like just giving you free money constantly. So like, I think that a lot of people might be missing this, and part of the reason why I hold certain tokens is because they're going to get forked, which means I get everything that they copy. It's like my money, like, it's like, imagine putting your money into a bank and then some guy comes over and uses a magic wand and like duplicates it all the time. Like, that's pretty much it. And if you don't have your money in this magic bank, then your money's not getting duplicated. And so I think some people aren't really getting that, you
Well, I
know?
think part of the challenge though is that there's so many, I mean, I'm in like a few airdrop Telegram groups and there's just so many things being pushed on a daily basis that
Yeah.
unless you're doing it full time and researching like all these different airdrops, it's really hard to figure out what's worth your time. I think
It,
that's what's going on with people. It's like there's FOMO, but there's also like so much information that we just don't know where to start, you know?
yeah. And so I actually built a sort of product that kind of helps with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of research. And as you know, I have a different business called Twinsy. It's like a virtual assistant. And so we did a bunch of research where we tried to collect like hundreds of airdrops, like every single one that came out. And I was actually pretty disappointed with the results of how much money there really was there. But then you have some outliers that will show that there's big returns. Like Stellar, for example, all they asked for was an email, and their airdrop is now worth over $2,000. So just sharing your email can give you $2,000. But also, you want to set yourself up to where you can kind of automatically collect them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, yes, you're right. Most of these aren't going to really give you that much money, but some of them will. And so I don't really want to miss those. Like, I think IQ token, for example, that's going to be dropped from Everypedia, I think that one's worth collecting. Like, I would actually, I don't think that it's worth your time to go through and do it all yourself. But if you can hire somebody to do it on a regular basis at like a pretty low cost, I think it's actually worth it, because you can go back. You could hire somebody to do it part time for like a quarter, and you can go back and just figure out like how much did you make or how much is it worth. But then also knowing that some of these platforms are going to grow a lot too. So you never really know. Like, I heard that the Decred airdrop was like highly profitable, for example. Um, so
That's interesting. So, okay, I want to go back to EOS for a second before we talk about airdrops again, just because I am definitely want to continue that discussion. But as
sure.
far as EOS this week, so what's your prediction? Like, do you think it's going to moon? Do you think it has potential to kill Ethereum in the long run? Like, what is your gut feeling there?
Yeah, so yeah, I guess a bias warning here, because I I'm very biased, and I don't really have that much of a pony in the race. I am, associated with some block producers, like we have a block producer. But my way of viewing crypto is I'm really try to be as agnostic as possible. Like I believe in the whole ecosystem, but yeah, just a little bias warning. Right now, I'm really optimistic about it. Where to start, actually? So as far as being an ETH killer, I know that a lot of people think that that sounds too ambitious and that they're full of shit or whatever, but for me, I think it really could be an ETH killer. Like, I would not be surprised if ETH starts to kind of, I mean, let me just go to like the most bullish view.
Okay.
I think it could start eating into ETH, and I think it'll take some time, definitely. But like, let's figure out why I think it could kill Ethereum.
Well, the development's a lot easier than Ethereum, right? Is what I've heard when it comes
So,
to EOS.
so I actually don't believe that that's true.
No? Okay.
You know, I think that people are right on both sides. For example, I was looking at, there's some tools for build, like, EOS is built with C++, and C++ is like more performant. So a lot of core devs are going to say, oh yeah, this is way better for these reasons, but I don't think it's actually easier. I believe that it's easier and that there's a lower learning curve for Ethereum and that this could actually be a problem for EOS, but we're supposed to be talking about how much I love it. But so I think that what can happen with EOS is that it has less scalability, or it's trying to solve the scalability problems that Ethereum has. And so if they actually are able to deliver on those promises, I think a lot of people are going to migrate off of Ethereum. I think that the way that they're setting up all of their materials, like look at EOS and Block One and how sexy all of their branding and their leadership is, like, they're building like the Google right now of crypto, if you really think about it. Mm-hmm. They're doing a lot to get behind a lot of these projects. They're giving a lot of support. They're connecting dApps with VCs. Like, they're very aggressive in what they're doing. And I think that it's going to have an impact eventually on the price. And so the scalability issue is a big deal. Look at CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties
yes.
Basically broke Ethereum. And I think that they haven't really
figured it out. No, they haven't.
And that leaves them vulnerable. So mm-hmm. I think that, you know, we could even see, like, this is my super bullish part of my view, which could be that within a quarter or two, we could see that, you know, Ethereum and people start migrating, because the crypto community is fickle and they know that shit moves fast. Mm-hmm. So if you start seeing EOS crushing it, you're going to be like, damn, like even this last week, we see that Ethereum price is going down. And I've seen a few days this week that EOS isn't really being affected from it as much. And so to me, that's already like an early sign that people are like, I wonder if EOS is going to take them out. So, and if I had to make a bold prediction, I would say that it's a really good contender and people are going to be worried about it.
So I did read today an article about some of the voting issues, and this is what sort of Vitalik is going against, the mining in EOS and like the whole voting component. And to be honest, I wasn't completely grasping how it worked, but Vitalik was just saying that essentially there's a lot of issues with the voting component because it could essentially have certain groups of people voting for each other in order to earn more and create some potential problems in the long run. So, I mean, can you tell me a little bit more about that and like what do you understand from it? And what are some of the potential issues?
Yeah, there are a lot of issues that I've seen come up, and I strongly suggest people to join some of the block producer telegrams. There's a few good ones. Maybe
by the way, what do you mean by block producer? Sorry.
Okay, so it's really just kind of a fancy word for a miner.
Got it. Okay.
I think that my guess is that people are trying to move away a little bit from this concept of mining because of, you know, the waste of work. And so, but a block producer is essentially a miner. And, you know, a lot of people are thinking that proof of stake is not really mining, but like technically it is mining. So it's a way of processing transactions. And there's these certain delegates, there's 21 of them that are responsible for most of the network. and these delegates are essentially processing the transactions or quote unquote mining, right? And so there's different ways that these miners or these delegates can get voted in to take some of that responsibility. And the way the system works is that people who hold EOS, they stake their EOS onto the block producers that they want to vote for. And what that does is it temporarily locks up some of your EOS. I think that you can keep it there for as long as you want. The voting, and this is information that I know, and some of it may not be accurate. I'm sorry. It's kind of dynamic, actually. I'm learning that, you know, at first the votes were locked up for 6 months, and then it's like the votes are locked up for however long you want, or 3 days, or I think now it's 3 days. So you can vote for multiple block producers, and I think it's 30 EOS or 30 EOS is one vote, and you can vote for multiple ones, and then it's weighted based on how much EOS you actually have too. So there are a lot of concerns. I've seen a lot of people worried about the system, but to me, what it really comes down to is trust in their team. Like, I really have a lot of respect for Dan Larimer. And I don't know him personally or anything, but I like his mission. He's a free market capitalist. He's kind of like an anarchist, and he's pretty thorough. But as far as voting, there are a lot of ways that a voting system can become corrupted, and so I think that we should be very conscious of that. Like, people are worried about a lot of different things. For example, investors can come in and kind of like buy them up, and there's worries about collusion. But what it really comes down to me, is how much do we trust all of these people that are involved in voting, and what is their intent with how they're voting? And I think that I trust most of the people here, and but a lot of people will say, well, it's not as efficient as regular proof of stake, and it's not as efficient as, you know, maybe mining is. And mining, it's just the problem. Like, it might even be that mining is a little bit more trustable, but to me, it's a balance of, you have all these like hardcore crypto dudes that are like, proof of work is the only thing that like allows us to really trust the network. But, you know, it's a balance where we can actually trust some of these people, and we can have these certain delegates that we can trust. And I believe that that's true. I believe that we can trust some of these people, and we can trust the system to vote the right people. But it's probably not going to be perfect. And I think that that's the beautiful thing about software. I think is, as we evolve, the community can like learn how to make it more fair. But I'm not really that worried about it. Like, because some people are coming in and having this really sort of socialist viewpoint. And I don't really have that. Like, I don't personally believe there's a lot wrong with somebody using their money to support the block producers and expect a kind of return, you know. It's sort of like a capitalism sort of versus socialism type of view. And I think that we need to keep an open mind and really be open to what are the incentives for people to vote and not vote, and which kind of block producers do people want to vote? Because the block producers are actually supposed to return their rewards and some of the yield that they have from their producers to put back into the community. And so each block producer, they're sort of like representatives in the government. It's like the representative says, I'm going to do this for the community. And then people are going to be like, well, I want to vote for this guy because I agree with the way he views it. So it's sort of democratic in a way, actually, which could be scary too, because, you know, democracies are open to a 51% attacks just as much as crypto is, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's another negative that I saw as well. Some potential bugs within EOS, and saying that it was more prone to hacking. So, I mean, what's your view on that? It seems like it was a lot of FUDs articles from what I've gathered, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, my bias there is that people are just trying to like be negative. They're kind of like haters. The vulnerabilities are real. I mean, these systems all have vulnerabilities. It's a real concern. There were some reports about some of the vulnerabilities, but I've been watching Dan Larimer, who's the lead developer. He's the CTO of Block One, and his way of explaining it was that most of the vulnerabilities that have come in on EOS are actually related to some third-party libraries, and that they're not really a big concern. I haven't looked into the actual technical details of every vulnerability, but it's because it's pretty time-consuming to do that. But I trust the developers. I think that if they're saying that most of the vulnerabilities aren't actually related to their core code base, then I feel like we should trust it. But a lot of these guys are very biased, and they're really fighting a war. These guys are fighting a war. It's like an intellectual, it's like a nerd war, you know, yeah. where like they're just going at each other, and it's bloody. It's a bloody war, and they're just trying to destroy each other, and they're fighting to build and to be the person who's responsible for building a new financial system. It's a war that's never really happened, and this is a world financial system that they're battling against each other to build, you know. So yeah.
So let me ask you, did you drop all your Ethereum?
Well, yeah.
Tell the truth.
I mean, yeah, I just don't like to create FUD, but like I have enough.
I like drama. It helps the show.
Yeah.
Guys, we keep on dropping. Sorry about that. So part 3, it's Facebook. Facebook's against us. Well, next time we'll do this on YouTube. So we actually have a question from Arsim, who was asking the main advantage of EOS versus Ethereum, and the main advantage being that EOS has a unique horizontal scalability. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, Kurt?
Yeah, so I think there's actually two things that I'd like to lump together. EOS is really trying to solve a very timely issue with like cryptocurrencies in general, which is a scalability problem. Going back to CryptoKitties, the Ethereum blockchain can't really process enough transactions. So it really comes down to TPS, transactions per second.
Yeah.
Ethereum crashed because it got overloaded with transactions that it couldn't process. So it's sort of like a queue. So if you ever watch that show, I Love Lucy, there's like this really classic scene where like the chocolate's coming in through the chocolate factory, and they're trying to like, you know, put the chocolate in the packages, but too much chocolate is coming out. That's pretty much what happened to Ethereum, and it was related to CryptoKitties. And so EOS doesn't really, it doesn't really have these problems, and we don't know that for sure yet because it's not really live, but why we believe that it won't is because Dan Larimer built BitShares and Steemit, which are probably comprising over 50% of all the transactions on the entire blockchain ecosystem, and it's able to do it pretty well. Like, they're doing likes and all of the shit on blockchain already in Steemit, and a lot of that technology and learnings went over to build EOS, so that everybody can build an application like Steemit. So that is one of the reasons why we believe that the scalability will be really, really great. But another thing that I wanted to lump into this is the fees. There's no fees in EOS. So like you have all these fees in Ethereum, and EOS doesn't have it. So that's actually two really great points that make it more of an Ethereum killer, in my opinion. Getting rid of the transaction fees and also the scalability. People could actually build apps that work on EOS like now. You know, hopefully that's like the hope and the belief that a lot of us have. And Ethereum is like, well, we're solving our problems or whatever. But like, if these guys start coming out with apps that are working or dApps that are working and they're not having the same scalability problems, that's a huge problem for Ethereum, in my opinion, because this shit moves fast. Developers want to build their apps today, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, because I mean, I know there's companies out there that are really sort of pushing Ethereum, and larger entities, like financial entities who also have moved forward onboarding developers, Ethereum developers. So, I mean, how do you think that's going to play? Like maybe EOS will be more for sort of like startup world where it's people like creating their own dApps, and then Ethereum will be sort of more the financial institutions. And then I'm sure Ethereum team is going to continue trying to figure out sort of the scalability issue. So like, I mean, for me, like that's my personal view. And I think that's why I don't think Ethereum is going anywhere. I do think I agree with you. Like EOS is definitely like a strong contender, but it will be really interesting to see how things will play out in the next, I guess, in the next few months.
Once React Native came out, for example, so many people just wanted to use it and move to it. So I think that we're going to have a better idea within the first, 2 quarters of EOS being live, how much of a threat it could be to Ethereum. Like there are a lot of really good points about Ethereum, which is a lot of the infrastructure is built there. Like most tokens, like I have a database of over 3,000 tokens, and like 98% of all of them are on the Ethereum blockchain. So it is a big deal. It is right now, Ethereum is the standard, so it's going to be hard to really topple it or take it over. And maybe we're going to be in a system where EOS totally tanks, it totally fails, and Ethereum just wins. That's a possible future, so I don't doubt it. Or it could be an ecosystem where both of them, where they both figure out what they're good at, and people that have a certain viewpoint will use EOS and another person might use Ethereum. Like maybe a government might use Ethereum because over the long term, that's a better solution, like a 10-year solution or a 5-year solution. But up and running right now, maybe EOS is the best. And then maybe the dApp developers are going to start building their apps because there's so many different platforms. They're going to build their dApps in a blockchain agnostic way that, you can just swap it from one blockchain to another because you don't want to get involved in all the bullshit and all the politics with, I don't, like me as an app developer, I don't want to have to make all these decisions about the future of which one is going to win or not. I want to be able to swap it really quickly because I don't give a shit. I just want people to use my app,
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Kurt. That was a lot of information. So we'll wait and see what happens, I guess, in the next few weeks with EOS. And let's do this again. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I like it.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for watching. And of course, if you have any questions, just make sure to add them in the comment section. And I'm going to stitch all this together. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. We'll make sure to tackle that for next week. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.